Welcome to On Fire, the only official Survivor podcast. I'm Jeff Probst, the host and showrunner of Survivor. Each week, I'm joined by Jay Wolf, Survivor fan and the executive producer of this podcast. Hello, Jay.
What's up, Jeff?
We're also joined by former Survivor player, three-time Survivor great Jeremy Collins. Hello, Jeremy.
What up, Uncle Jeff? What up, Jay?
And each week, we dissect the biggest moments of the most recent episode of Survivor, and we bring you insight from the point of view of the fan, the player, and the producer. So let's get into it. The big moments, episode 2 of Survivor 49. Where you want to start, Jay?
I want to jump to the end, actually, and I want to hear from Sophie at Tribal Council.
We're at the principal's office again, and one of us is about to get expelled, you know? It's just hit after hit after hit. It's heartbreaking, honestly. But strengthening our tribe in a way that we can work together stronger, you know, in the long game. You know, I'm brain fog today.
Sophie, it's incredibly hot out here. You have no food.
I know. Well, I think in the last few days, I've only had one coconut. I'm beat up. It's just been tough, Jeff, to lose every single day, it seems like.
Man.
Yeah, that's from Sophie, who seems to be someone who's just incredibly with it, and yet she can't form a sentence. Jeff, how hot was it really?
Well, I don't really recall any season other than maybe Cambodia when we had 3 people go down in one challenge that was this hot. It was stifling. It was hard to think. I was sweating through my shirts. I was struggling with names and thoughts, and I'm eating and sleeping and, you know, fully supported out there. And I think it really speaks to the new era idea of earning everything, because when you take this kind of heat and then you put on top of it that if you lose, you will not have your tribe supplies. That makes it more difficult, which means you might lose again, which means you're going to go back to tribal council and you're going to vote somebody out. It just builds on top of everything. And I remember Matt Van Wagenen and I talking early on that make sure the editors know to leave in every time I stumble with a name or every time I'm struggling to catch my breath, because we want the evidence to be there that this is really difficult.
I mean, Jeff just mentioned how hot it was in Survivor Cambodia, Jeremy. You were there. What is it like to play under heat like this?
I've been there when it's 114 degrees and you can't think. Your mind is just in a fog. You can't formulate a sentence. It's tough, man.
And you had rice.
Yeah,
I had rice. I had snails. You know, like I was starving, but I wasn't starving like the new era starve, you know?
Well, and Jeremy, this is, you know, man, maybe there's an answer here, Jeremy. If you were preparing to go play 50 and you're watching the new era unfold and realizing I might be in a situation like Sophia's where I don't have anything for the first few days, is there anything you can do as a 3-time player who played in the old era, which we'll say is anything before 41, to prepare for this new era?
So I always had a special way of preparing myself. I would stop eating at home. I would shrink my stomach. And I felt like that works for me. I don't know if it works for everybody. There's nothing like the experience of being out there. So once you get out there and you're hit with the not eating, I don't know if you can mimic that going into the game.
I'm very curious because I remember Boston Rob saying that he would put weight on.
Right.
Yes.
He would do the opposite of Jeremy because his idea was, I want to last longer and have this fat for my body to eat.
I've had this conversation with Rob, and I think that might work for his body type. But I know for my body type, I can go in. And the first few days of my games, I was not hungry. I felt good. But again, I was undersized. I was a little bit weaker. Rob is going in a little bit stronger. But I don't know. I think different people, it's going to work different ways, you know, different body types.
Well, let's stay on the Kella tribe. It's day 4, and they're eating worms.
I am so hungry out here, and so I have a few new friends that I met in Fiji, and they are earthworms. They taste a little bit dirty, so I'm just telling myself that I'm eating dirt that kind of moves. Bon appetit. Here we go.
I love that description. I'm telling myself I'm eating dirt that kind of moves.
Yeah, Jeremiah and his new friends. I mean, Jeremy, you just said you would go into the game attempting to shrink your stomach, but do you also go in with the approach that's like, yo, I might be eating some worms?
I do not go in with that approach. I'm not eating any worms. Like I don't think that's worth it. You know, I can't even think about it. Unless it's a challenge, I'll do a challenge. If you put a worm in front of me in a challenge, I'll do that. But
Shout out to the great Jervis. I got to say, season 1, ate that grub or tried to eat that grub. I still remember that moment because you knew at that point the show was going to work. And you also knew in somebody like Jervis, we picked the right person. That dude is down. I'm here. Yes. And I'll do it with a smile as well.
Yes. Yeah. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing worms. You know, Jervis is the man for doing that.
I think there's something here, Jeremy, in that what you just said was, I'll do it for a challenge. But part of what separates the new era from the old era is that the new era is about the fact that you get nothing. You must earn everything. And so it's almost like, I know he doesn't have to eat the worm, but part of the challenge is you have to survive out here with no rice, with no food.
That's tough. I've never been to that level. The closest I've come was in Second Chance. We had like 5 days of all rain and there was no fire. We couldn't make our rice. We couldn't cook our snails. And that was a rough go for that 5 days. It was it was awful. But I've never been anywhere near close to eating worms or anything like that. That's the new era is different than the old school, you know?
Yeah, well, and it just keeps getting tougher for Kella, it seems. I mean, I'm having flashbacks, Jeff, to our friends on the Lulu tribe or the Vula tribe. Tribes that lost challenge after challenge, no flint, no fire. I think 11 days was the record.
Right.
This is the third time we're seeing that, so that means it's a trend. Is the flint and pot and machete penalty too harsh?
No, it's exactly as designed. Because it forces adaptability. We're hearing it in Jeremy. He's saying, if I played on 50, I don't think I'd eat a worm. We don't know what Jeremy would do.
Right.
That's what's going to be interesting about 50 because you're going to be forced into something you haven't done before. And what I think Survivor shows is that we can adapt much more than we think. Look at the rice negotiation in the new era. In the first season, players were desperate to get the required number of players in order to make it a deal that they could get rice. You go a few seasons deeper and the players start going, I don't even know if we need the rice. I'm not willing to give up my shot at immunity. That's adaptation in real time.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, we're going to talk more about that in a bit. But first, I want to talk about the Zoomers and specifically how you adapt to it.
God, I love these vibes here.
I'm a certain vibe for sure, you know?
Just feeling the vibes.
Exactly. I have never used the word vibe to describe a group probably in my life. And I think, unfortunately, I have to say vibe a lot here because that's the language, you know? It's about vibe, it's about making space, it's about things that are fire.
Oh, that's gonna be fire, Nate.
Oh my God, it smells fire.
Wow, that's...
Oh my God, this looks freaking fire, dude.
Oh, that's fire.
Fire!
The amount of times they say it is actually kind of amazing.
I had a little nibble and this is fire.
Bro, this tastes dumb good.
Oh my gosh.
It's about things that are cinema.
That was cinema.
That was so cool.
It was so fun.
So cool.
The aura was great.
I don't want to interrupt these vibes that are immaculate.
Sure.
I just love that we're chilling and
I bet when I used to say rad, old people were like, that's dumb.
I'm not saying I have Riz.
You do have Riz though. You're the Rizzo.
As alien and foreign as it feels to me, I do need to adapt. And so it's been interesting for me to try to navigate those conversations with some people who could be my kids.
Well, that was a long clip and I laughed through the entire clip.
Yeah, I wasn't going to cut that short because, man, do I feel for Nate. And, you know, I'm closer in age to those kids than he is. Jeff, let me start here. Survivor tends to reflect the cultural moment more or less. And what I realized while watching this segment specifically was oh, millennials are done. It's Gen Z's time now. Did you feel that in casting through this season?
Well, that's a really interesting way to ask the question. I'll have to think about that here in real time. But what I would say is, yes, Survivor is always a reflection of where we are as a culture, which is why if you go back and watch older seasons, you will hear and see things that are happening that we would never do today or never allow on the show, or things I wouldn't say. So it's incumbent upon us as producers to make sure we reflect where the culture is. Something interesting that is happening in casting is that since 41, when we made a marked decision to make the diversity much more broad and encompassing, every single category of every ethnic group is up in terms of applications. So when you hear that phrase, representation matters, this is a real life example that it matters. And we have people coming in to apply now who say, well, I applied because I saw someone who sounded like me, or who was where I was from, or was raised how I was raised, whatever it is. Well, that also includes generational diversity. And Gen Z approaches and sees life differently than a Gen X or a millennial. So when you have a Rizzo and a Savannah and a Shannon, it's not so much are they the dominant force or grouping. It's really watching who's going to have to meet who and where. Like, and in this case, what Nate's saying is I have to go meet them where they are.
Yeah.
I got to find a way to deal with cinema and fire and dumb. What was his one? The dumb smart? Or,
dumb good. Dumb good. It's dumb good.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I think is still the fundamental concept of Survivor is you take this cross section of people and then you force them to rely on each other, as Sophie's talking about earlier, in extreme conditions while conspiring against each other. For all we know, Nate and Rizzo might be the perfect sort of pseudo father-son bond that gets you to the end, or Nate becomes the old guy and they take him out. That's what he's worried about, and that's what he's trying to figure out right now.
Yeah, that's a vibe to contend with. Jeremy, take us into that moment for Nate a little bit. You're still early in this game. You're trying to get to know people. You're trying to get on their level. What's a smart player trying to do in this moment in terms of like, should I try to fit in, or is there actually an advantage in being a little bit different than the rest of the group?
No, I don't think you try to fit in. I feel like if you try to fit in, they'll spot that right away. For me, I would be the cool uncle. And I do this with my children. You know, my kids, they'll say something. There's all these new terms of 6'7" and, you know, aura and all this. So I'll do that to them just to make them feel uncomfortable. And they say, Dad, what are you doing? And I think that's like, it's kind of fun that way, you know? And if Nate takes that step, I could see that being successful. That's something like I would do. I would kind of play up on that, you know? Again, it's different for everybody. I think the key is to assess each situation and kind of go with your gut on it.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, tribe versus individual. It is a big part of the game design in the tribe stage of the game, and Jawan has to contend with that dilemma. We'll be right back. Welcome back to On Fire, the only official Survivor podcast. All right, Jay, next moment.
Okay, I want to head out on the first journey of the season, and it's not without a new twist.
You have a choice. Help yourself or help your tribe. Help yourself by stealing the vote of either losing player. They will not vote at their next tribal council, and you will take this parchment as a secret extra vote. Help your tribe by putting a disadvantage on either of the other two tribes at the next immunity challenge, greatly increasing the odds that your tribe stays safe and avoids tribal council. On the one hand, I can really gain some favor from my tribe by giving the other tribes either Hina or Kella a disadvantage at the next immunity challenge. But I need something to protect myself, and it would not hurt to have that extra vote in my back pocket. So I have a big choice to make. Damn.
Jay, can I, before you go to your question, I want to just take a moment, the how and the why of storytelling of that moment, because there were three things happening, and only three. One, you have the note. It has to be written in a way that it can be read. Then you have the reader. Jawan reads it beautifully, like a narrator with pace. Where there's a comma, he takes a brief pause. If there's an ellipse, he takes a longer pause. And then you have the music that our editor puts into there. And that creates this really cool moment. So if you're a future player, take a moment, go back 60 seconds in this podcast, and now listen to that. And when you are out there and you get a clue or an advantage or a tree mail, imagine how it's going to sound and read it like that, because that was gold.
I was getting chills. Jawan, Survivor is a horror movie. I believe it, my man.
Yeah.
This is a really, really fun journey game, and it's a new twist. So I want to dig a little bit deeper into it, Jeff. Can you talk to us a little bit about how these journey games are designed and some insight into what Team Flint is up to when they do something like this?
Yeah. If you're a new listener, Team Flint is composed of Jimmy Quigley, who runs it, with Andrea Joint and Keone Smith. And they're a trio that are now fully responsible for all of these journeys. And that's everything. That's coordination of the boats that come and pick you up, all the way to the execution of whatever the things that are happening out there. With a journey challenge, you have a much different problem to solve. You're not going to have the same scale as this giant tribe challenge that the art department has spent weeks and weeks building. These are going to be smaller. They still have to be interesting. The rules have to be very simple because they are essentially a do-it-yourself challenge where there is no judge, me, out there. So there can't be anything that's very controversial. It's got to be pretty clean. They're also unpredictable. And because of that, you are forced to make a blind decision about who's going to go. And now we've done enough of these that the player knows I could literally be facing anything. And so there's this inherent layer of suspicion because you're doing it separated from the camp and nobody knows what is happening. So the player who takes on a journey is taking on a lot. You are walking into something blind. You know there will be stakes. You're doing it for opportunity. Can I improve my game by taking this big risk? And like any new element, we're getting better every season at the design of the game, the execution of the game, the storytelling, which is the interviews and the cinematic coverage we do. I'm really proud of this new layer. And it started with a very simple one, a risk-reward game that you're going to risk your vote or not. And it's led now to this completely new layer of the game. That's just everybody pouring great ideas into this and then a team, Team Flint, executing flawlessly.
Yeah. If you ask yourself, what's a producer do? The answer is everything. The other one I really loved here was Jawan. He gets off the boat and he goes, oh my God, what did I do? I didn't even think through this. And Jeremy, I think one question fans are going to have about the old versus new era players is this is a pacier, more dangerous, more unknown game. So what do you anticipate the old era players, your peers, would do in this situation?
I think the old era players need to step their game up. They have an uphill battle. This is a different pace. A lot of the old school players are more like, let me find an alliance. Stick with this alliance all the way to the end. We could do final three right now. And they don't really waver much. That's not how this thing goes anymore. It's a fast pace. There's twists and turns. You can go on a journey and come back and everything's going to change your game. You know what I mean? You can't just stick with your alliance. So it's a lot of changes. They have an uphill battle. We'll see. I think the right person can adapt, but that's tough.
Yeah. Ultimately, Jawan makes a big choice, which is to help the tribe, not help himself. And we hear from the tribe that maybe this saved him for today, but also maybe not. So, Jeremy, is there merit in choosing the tribe over choosing yourself, or is Jawan foolish here for not saying me at all costs?
Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit, because I think that in Survivor, it is me at all costs. Like, that's how you should go into this game. But there's levels to this. So, like, at the beginning of the game, I think you should really look towards being more of a team thing. Let's help this team, you know? And later on, you start playing a little selfish. I think this is the right decision for Jawan right now. You know what I mean? I think he was on the outs. He didn't know it, but he was on the outs, and this could have saved him some time and some grace because they would try to blindside him, you know?
Right.
But I don't know. I think there's stages of the game where you can say, you know what? I'm going to keep this to myself. And other times you say, this is for my group. I want the group to know I did this for us.
That brings me directly to the immunity challenge, because the other fun part of this, Jeff, was that Jawan did not know exactly what he was doling out when he chose the disadvantage. Another long clip, folks, but it's very worth it.
One more thing to deal with. Yesterday, there was a journey. Somebody ended up with power. Who has it?
What's up, Uncle Jeff?
All right, Jawan.
It's a little dusty.
Okay, that's all right. Thank you. All right, Jawan has a disadvantage to assign to one tribe in this challenge.
What?
Before I ask you which tribe and why, let me explain what the challenge disadvantage is. Every person on the disadvantaged tribe will run this challenge with 20 pounds of coconuts on their back. That's part one. Part two is, instead of one key that opens the rope gate, they will have 10 keys. You'll have to sort through them until you find the one key. So it's a compound disadvantage.
First things first.
Yes.
Are you good with being called Uncle Jeff?
Uncle Jeff.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Any term of affection is okay with me.
Okay.
Look, Jay and Jeremy, I cherish my relationship with the players. I do. And it's complicated. I represent a lot of different things based on the player. You heard Sophie at the beginning of this podcast say, I feel like we're back in the principal's office. Okay, to her, I'm the principal.
Yeah.
To somebody else, I'm the dad that you want to prove something to. I represent a lot of different things to players out there, and I get that. And so I try to hold space for whatever relationship I mean to you, but all I want to be is a steward to your adventure. That's all I want. I spend my whole year trying to be a part of a team that's creating the adventure, and then when I'm out there, I want to be your biggest fan. So yeah, Uncle Jeff, I love that. It makes me feel like I'm a part of the vibe.
All right. The other question here is, how do you arrive at this penalty? I mean, you could hear it in the drums, right?
Yeah.
20 pounds of coconut, 10 extra keys.
Yeah.
That's an insane amount of disadvantage.
Well, insane is subjective. I mean, these are really fun problems to solve, because anytime somebody earns an advantage, and the advantage is to either help themselves in a challenge, say, or hurt somebody else in a challenge, you want to land on the spot that is satisfying for everybody. So the penalty has to be severe enough that you hear the beat of the drum and you go, oh, damn, 20 pounds of coconuts on my back. You want the audience to have a reaction, and we got that. But you also want a disadvantage that is still achievable for the tribe who's burdened with it to pull out a victory. And so the only way you figure that out is by testing and testing and testing. And so you have your years of challenge experience and your trust in your challenge teams, but you also have the dream teamers that we rely on to give 100% as though their life depended on it. And then you look at it and you say, okay, here's where we're going to land. And ultimately, yes, it's always subjective and arbitrary, but I want to assure you, we spend a lot of time trying to get it right.
I love that. And I can only imagine the dream teamers who were doing it with 40 pounds. And then you decided it's time to scale it back.
That's right.
Jeremy, we just talked about personal versus tribal. And now that you hear how intense the penalty that Jawan can dole out is, do you have the same answer?
I think I do. I think if you look at the human factor, I think everybody out there are all looking at it and saying, if Jawan makes the Kelly tribe carry the weight of that penalty, it's really stepping on him. And there is an argument for that.
Right.
You know, there is an argument to say, if Kelly loses, there's one less person that I worry about. I have another ally in Uli, plus my ally with my tribe. I think he has an argument. But saying that, the human factor, when you put it on Uli can say, you know what? He didn't want to step on Kelly. He was being a nice guy. He didn't want to step on their neck. You know what I mean? And Kelly's like, oh, good thing that he has our back. So now he has an ally in that as well. So there's different ways to look at it. I think he chose the right thing, though.
And I'll just add in that what Jeremy just described, that dilemma, is exactly what we're after. First, Jawan had to decide tribe versus individual. Now he's made the tribe decision. Now he has a new problem, which tribe to hurt. There's no right or wrong answer. That's why Jeremy ends almost every answer by saying, you got to do what's right for you. You have to do what's right for you. So in this phase of the game, what every player is going to encounter in some level is, should I be selfish or should I be selfless? And that's going to come down to, where am I right now in the group? Do I think I'm in trouble? Do I have a strong alliance? That's why Survivor is always minute by minute and moment by moment.
Right. And I want to get to the ending of this challenge here because the disadvantage seems to work. And then Kelly gets to the puzzle and it all falls apart. We heard from Sophie at the top of this episode how difficult it is to go without these tribe supplies for this many days. And it seems almost like this snake eating its tail. The more you lose, the worse you have it, and so on and so forth. So that's the intention that you were talking about before, right?
Yes, this is the design of the game. And the reason it keeps coming up is you can't worry about it if you're the producer. You design the game and you let it play, and that's it. And if we have a tribe that gets demolished, that's their problem. And if Jawan has to decide, should I step on them a little more or should I give them a break? That's his decision. But it comes back to these basic questions of, can you find optimism again when you're going back to camp down another member? Can you find confidence again at the next challenge, even though you've never won one? Because if you don't and you can't and you give up, the other tribes will eat you. They will seize that moment and they will cannibalize you. But as we've seen so many times, the despair that can come from losing early can also lead to bonds that can carry you later if you can survive.
That's true.
It's one of my favorite things about Survivor, that it's a very difficult experience, but it's the story of the triumph of the human spirit.
Yeah.
It's about resilience.
That's exactly it. And just to get into the how and the why of the producer, it would be so tempting as a producer to shift the game a little. We don't want Kella to lose again. Let's don't make the penalty so hard. Whatever. No, absolutely not. No, exactly as planned. If they lose again and they get down to a tribe of one, okay, they get down to a tribe of one. We'll figure it out. But you cannot help the player and you cannot adjust the game.
Yeah.
And Jeff, as a player that played 3 times, we would have conversations about things like this and say, there's no way that they're going to give us another challenge and they're going to make that tribe battle again. They got to change the game. There's got to be a merge. There's got to be a tribe swap.
Wow.
We would talk about this all the time. So it's good to hear that, no, you guys don't do anything about that. This is how we're playing the game. And if someone's going to go down to a tribe of one, it's going to happen.
Yep. Okay, let's take one more quick break, Jay. When we come back, Kella's tribal council is shaken up a bit when the hunt for an idol enters the picture. We'll talk about that ticking clock. Be right back. Welcome back to On Fire. All right, Jay, what's next?
Okay, I want to talk about this beware advantage, the old ball and chain, as it were. Alex finds this clue. He's got Jake carrying around this massive key. It's a literal physical manifestation of danger. And they're looking for this before tribal council. It's a ticking clock. The first question I have, Jeff, is how long do they actually have here to find this thing before the vote happens?
Well, these situations will vary a lot depending on how easy it is for somebody to get out of camp and what task we've given them. But generally speaking, you have a few hours total from the time you get back from a challenge to when you have to leave for tribal. And in this specific case with this beware advantage, The bigger twist is that your time is limited because you don't get the clue you need until you lose.
Right.
So you only have the time between returning to camp after a loss, which means you're going to tribal, and the time you leave for tribal.
That's not a lot of time.
No. And what's happening simultaneously, you're trying to figure out where this beware advantage is, but you're also trying to stay involved in the conversation about what's going to happen to make sure you get the person out you want out, and also to make sure the person out isn't you. So it's another part of the new era that has added this tension and this adrenaline rush. But if you're a player, it's also a lot of fun. That's an exciting thing to feel that coursing through your body. And in this case, you have people helping you. So you're all trying to keep ears on what's happening over here. And you're trying to carry this and dig that up and get this thing.
Yeah. Gone are the days of finding an idol without an extreme amount of risk involved, it seems to me. So Jeremy, as an old era representative, how do you approach idols now in Survivor?
Extremely cautiously. We're here to play Survivor though, and you're gonna get it. Don't get me wrong, you're getting that, but it's not just when you just grab it and you have that feel of exhilaration that you used to have. You know what I mean? I've been there, that I've found the idol and I'm like, oh, this is the greatest feeling ever. It's not like that anymore. Now you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Do I pick this up or do I leave this? It's different.
Yeah. Yeah, what call would you make?
Oh, you're grabbing that. You're getting it. There's no doubt. We're here to play.
Yeah.
You're playing,
Yeah.
This is another reason Jeremy's a great player. It's the fundamental understanding that you have to grab it. You really do, because Survivor only has one winner, and that winner is determined by a jury of your competitors. So they are looking for evidence of why you deserve to win. And that means you have to be able to show them that you played. And played means taking risks. I don't think we will ever again have a player win this game who played a defensive game, who tried to not lose. Today's jury demands people take chances. The obvious risk is when you take a chance, it can fail. And if it fails, you can be voted out. It's kind of like what Jeremy said in the first episode of this podcast when he talked about Tony. Tony plays a chaotic game. It's going to fail. Historically, it will fail more times than it doesn't. But that's his game, and when it works, he wins. The reason the beware advantage says beware is a sign to the future. This is where the beware advantage is today. Beware. If you pick this up, it is yours. Read into that, future players, whatever you want. But the smart player should be thinking, there's not going to be an end to the beware advantage. This can't be it. It's going to continue to grow like a monster. And it's coming for you. And if you're Jeremy, you don't care. You got to take it.
Yeah. The other difficult part about these beware advantages these days is it's almost impossible to keep it a secret, it seems.
Ugh.
So, Jeremy, how do you handle the fact that now you've got this great information and you almost must share it in order to get it?
Oh, this is a part where I absolutely hate it as a player. When I played, if I found an idol or I had a secret and I kept it to myself, good things happened, And every time when I had something and I shared it, I was blindsided. So now I'm forced to work with people and give them my secret that I don't want to give. So what I would try to do is I try to get two allies, two people that I trust, and preferably they don't really trust each other, And I try to bring us as a three and use our secrets to push my game further. Do you know what I mean?
Man, that's really interesting. Two close allies who do not trust each other. I don't even know if I fully understand it, but given Jeremy's success, yeah, exactly. I'd be studying that comment a lot.
Yeah, same here. Well, ultimately, despite Sophie's valiant attempt to steal this for herself and hide it in the leaves, Alex does recover the idol. He's left with the choice. Do I make a move and keep Annie, who I have seen as an ally, or do I go with the tribe? And he chooses to keep it.
Again, for me, I'm always for keeping people that I trust around. I want my alliance to be strong and people that I can trust wholeheartedly. I say wholeheartedly when you really can't trust anybody in Survivor. But I think at this point, he made the right decision. I think it's too early for him to make such a big move. But saying that, this is New Era Survivor. You might have to make that big move early on.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, it does lead to Annie being the second vote out of the season. 2 Kellas down, only 4 left. Jeff, your thoughts on Annie as she leaves the island?
Yeah, my notes were she's interesting. She's peculiar in a great way. She's very fly by the seat of your pants. You know, Annie, we didn't get enough time with her to really learn a lot about her, but she had a very tough upbringing and it made her scrappy. And she's somebody that takes on challenges with a smile. She doesn't hold grudges. You know, like I don't imagine that Annie's really mad that she was voted out early. I think she came to play the game. I mean, she has a hat she wears that says the boss, you know, regarding her band. So she knows that that comes with this inherent risk that I might be read as too much of a boss. And I think that's what happened. I'm not surprised by Annie getting voted out, given the situation of her tribe and how she played it.
Yeah. All right, let's get into some fan questions. As a reminder, if you have a burning Survivor question, you can have it answered. All you have to do is email us at survivorshoutout@cbs.com. I read the questions, might even read yours here, like this one from Anthony that says, "Howdy, Jeff. Thank you for always keeping us fans on your mind. I'm curious if there's any chance either Redemption Island or Edge of Extinction might return in a future season. With the new 26-day format, does a shortened schedule rule out re-entry points that those twists would require? Or might the new normal of 90-minute episodes lend themselves perfectly to longer storytelling that could spotlight contestants trying to re-enter the game?"
This is why I love our fans, because I know right now there are fans listening, cringing at this question, going, oh my God, she just named the 2 worst ideas they've ever had, Redemption Island and Edge of Extinction. Obviously, I don't agree because they were my ideas, but I do like that there's at least one fan who might be interested in some sort of second chance within a season. Here's the thing, 90 minutes, 26 days, it doesn't really impact anything in this sense. You just have to produce for what you have. So if you were going to do a Redemption Island or Edge of Extinction, you just have to look at here's what we have. Here's how many days we have. Here's how we would structure that. Here's when the player might come back or have a second chance. And here's where it would fit in the episode. And maybe it means that you get rid of journeys. You know, that there's a Redemption Island element, and we'll put that set piece in place of the journey set piece in terms of running time. So there's always opportunities to do whatever you want, provided you think through it in advance. And that's something we've gotten better and better and better at. If you were to see my whiteboard in my office during a season of Survivor, you could see the entire season laid out. We don't know what's going to happen, but you would know, oh, there's a journey here, there's a double tribal here, there's a switch there, there's a new advantage goes in here. That's all laid out, and it rarely changes unless something weird happens, like a player gets evacuated, you know, or something that might disrupt the numbers for a moment. But otherwise, it's all there and laid out, and that's why it all fits. And still, as I often talk about, episodes will come in 15 minutes too long, even after a tight cut, because the players are so interesting and they're giving us so much great story that you're constantly saying, what are we going to cut?
Right.
Who are we going to cut? Everything is interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you're saying there's a chance. That's what I'm thinking about that. Question 2 is from Aurora. She writes, "Hey, gang, I'm watching all the seasons while I'm on maternity leave. I'm on season 3. Thank you, Paramount Plus. I'm wondering if you still do fun rhymes for tree mail in the new era. We just don't see it on TV.
Yes, we do. You have so much to look forward to. Yeah, John Kerhofer, little inside baseball, one of the very first people hired by Mark Burnett back in 2000, has written every single tree mail for every single episode of every single season of Survivor.
Wow.
And I don't know how he does it, because he sends them to me before they go out just for proofing and to make sure. And every time he sends one, I kind of scratch my head and go, how did he just do this again? And they always rhyme.
Unreal.
They're always clever. And Jay, they're always slightly misleading. He's kind of giving you a little bit of a riddle to figure out. There might be valuable information if what you assess is right. There could be misleading information if what you assess is wrong. And the reason we don't show them is that even though they're very fun, they don't always connect directly to the central dramatic question of who's going to be voted out tonight. But Jeremy can speak to this. They're very fun for the players because they're information, and they become this constant source of who gets to keep this one as a souvenir.
Yeah, I have a few of them actually.
Oh, that's great.
I have them. I framed them, and they're on my wall. And as a player, we take them and we'll talk for 10, 15 minutes about it and try to decipher what it means and what's the challenge going to be. And then we throw them in our bags and keep it as a keepsake. It's kind of cool.
I love hearing that.
John Kerr-Hopper, what a legend. All right, question number 3 comes from Ike. They write, congratulations on reaching season 6 on fire. Thanks. I live for the behind-the-scenes tea, and I was curious, on average, how many microphones tend to get damaged beyond repair during the course of a given season?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the number would vary from season to season, but we do lose mics for sure. We have cameras go down as well. What I think is maybe a little more interesting tea is that we have so many mics that you will never see. And I'm not going to give away our secrets, but Ryan England runs our audio department. And he took over, I don't know, 12 years ago, a long, long time ago. And I remember we met in Studio City at a coffee shop. And he opened this book and he laid out his ideas for how I want to transform how we collect audio on Survivor. And he changed everything. I mean, we put mics in so many spots that you never see. They're right in front of you, but you can't see them. And what it allows is for us to get one extra sound of a puzzle piece going, shh, just that little shh. Or it's one extra quiet comment at a challenge when somebody whispers and says, if they pick us, I'm going to be so pissed. We get that audio. It's hard to get that audio, but Ryan looks at the whole show as it's only about the audio. And what's great about that is you get all of these textures, and including the last geek out thing. When players are in a water challenge, they have microphones on. And it used to be that once they jumped in the water, your audio was pretty much done because that mic was submerged in water. Very early on, Ryan said, I'm not happy with that. I've got some ideas for how to work around that. And he did. And now you see players jump in the water and they pop up and you can hear everything they're saying. Wow. We've been doing that for years, thanks to Ryan England.
That's unbelievable.
That's another thing we did, Jeff. We would put the mics on and go in the water. We would say, why do we put these on? They can't hear us in the water. We couldn't understand that either. I'm learning so much.
I like it. That's what makes this podcast what it is. You know, it really is. It's the how and the why. So I'm glad we're teaching each other. All right, that's it for this week's episode of On Fire. If you enjoy the podcast, we'd love it if you take a moment to rate and review the show on Spotify or Apple Podcast. It helps the show grow.
Speaking of reviews, check this one out from Amy Ann Smith. She says, I've never missed an episode of the show, and now I'll never miss an episode of the podcast.
Love it.
This informative podcast is addictive and entertaining. Love it.
Thank you. There's a brand new episode of Survivor every Wednesday at 8, 7 Central. How lucky are we that I can continue to say that?
Yeah.
24 and a half years in.
Unreal.
Every Wednesday at 8, 7 Central on CBS and Paramount Plus, and immediately following the episode, there is a new episode of this podcast. It's called On Fire! See you then. Follow and listen to On Fire on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.